is a standard bus wheel. It weighs around 300 kilos with its tyre, more than most strong men can lift. But imagine what would happen if it were to come loose at 60 miles an hour. It would become lethal. Even at slow speeds, the destructive powers of a loose wheel can cause serious damage, injury, and even death. All of these accidents were caused by wheels coming loose. But even defects that appear less serious can have far-reaching implications. You'll recognise this. It's a brake glass hammer. If it were missing, how would your passengers escape an emergency? There's a simple way to make sure this doesn't happen to you, and it doesn't take very long. A daily walk-around check.
It's absolutely vital for drivers to carry out their daily walk-around checks because it's their first line of defence against ensuring that the vehicles are fit and serviceable on the road and that passengers are protected when they're being carried in their vehicles. It also protects the driver against having any accidents.
It doesn't take long, and it puts your mind at ease, at rest. I mean, and it's a very important safety feature.
To be honest, I don't even think about doing it. I do it every day, so to me it's just part of the job.
The consequences for the operator are that they could have a fleet investigation, and that could result in vehicles being put off the road or action being taken by a commissioner at a public inquiry.
And avoiding the nightmare of an accident caused by a defect isn't the only reason to carry out a daily walk-around check. Out on the road, drivers with defective vehicles run the risk of being stopped by VOSA and the possibility of a prohibition, immobilisation, a fixed penalty and points on their licence. But VOSA is also there to help, and this DVD is a guide to daily walk-around checks for drivers and operators to keep their vehicles safe and roadworthy. So we have a coach, we have a bus, and most importantly, we have Jake here from VOSA. Hello there.
Hello.
Who's going to take us through a walk-around check. Now, Jake, drivers and operators, busy people. How long should a walk-around check take?
Well, it shouldn't take long at all. It should only take a short time, especially if it's part of a driver's daily routine. But because we're making a film and we're going to do a demonstration at the same time, obviously it's going to take us quite a bit longer. But it's fair to say the demonstration that we give you here now on either particular vehicle that we're using will apply to all sorts of types of vehicles, be they minibuses, double-deckers or even bendy buses.
And drivers and operators are probably quite used to their vehicles and they've probably got their own systems already in place.
Well, that's true, yeah. The driver will have his own routine, but if operators or drivers want to add any additional things to their walk-around checks, that's fine. That's all well and good. The important thing is that they do the checks and they do them properly.
So, Jake, I'm no mechanic, obviously. What kind of things are we going to be looking for?
Just for the benefit of the film, we've already done the vital fluids such as fuel, oil, water, screen wash levels and things like that. But what we're expecting the drivers, we don't want them to be mechanics, we don't expect them to be mechanics, but as they carry out their walk-around checks on a daily basis, they will become more and more familiar with their vehicles in any case. So what we're looking for is to make sure that the drivers understand that they need to be looking for things that are defective, things that aren't working properly, things that are missing, and to make sure that the vehicle is in a good roadworthy condition.
And are we just looking at statutory items here?
No, we'll also be looking at some non-statutory items, things that are fitted to improve driver or passenger comfort and safety, things that can easily be checked, things like centre aisle mirrors or centre marker lights, things which common sense says we should check.
So we're going to go with the coach.
Yep.
Where's the best place to start? The front?
Yeah, pretty much, but if we take a few steps back, what the driver would do is he's walking towards the vehicle once he's been allocated it. He would take a look at the front of it to see how it's sitting, OK? It'd also give him opportunity to stoop down maybe and look underneath to see if there's any fluid or pools that might draw his attention, that might need further investigation. Well, most drivers might want to put their personal gear on board first and then start from the cab. And to be fair, you can do these walk-around checks in any routine you want, but for the benefit of keeping it clear for the film, we'll start on the outside, OK?
Righto.
But while we're here, we'll check the operation of the door, the mechanism, make sure it works smoothly and opens fully. Right?
Well, I have to get on?
No, no, you've got a nice little job for you. You go around the front there and have a look at the lights, and I'll get in and put the lights on, OK?
OK.
Right. So that's all the lights switched on.
Yep.
But what I always recommend when I'm talking about walk-around checks on vehicles is that if we adopt a routine and stick with it, then we won't miss anything out. So I always go top, middle, bottom.
Right,
okay?
Seems logical.
Starting at the top, there's a marker light. Not all vehicles will have those, but anyway, that one's there to make sure it's lit and working. Working our way down the screen, this corner here, no damage to the glass or bodywork. And most importantly, the driver's mirror. Okay, we're going to look at it, make sure it's secure.
Yeah.
The reflective surface, is it clean and is it bright so he's able to use it? Working down here, any sign of collision damage, because remember the driver doesn't want to take the blame for someone else's damage that was done last night.
So they should report it if it's there.
Of course, yeah, because the boss would need to know about it so they can find out how it happened. Here's our indicator light flashing here, our side light bulb, headlight, main beam, and fog light. And also, we're going to make sure that the panel that's securing, that all these lamps are mounted on is secure to the vehicle. Especially important on coaches and vehicles that are low to the ground is you may get some strike damage where the vehicle's caught the ground.
Yeah.
There again, the driver needs to make a note of that on his defect card and report it to the boss so that they know it was there before he took the vehicle out. And it's important that we don't forget to have a check if the operator licence is present and the tax disc is current as well.
So that's all looking pretty good.
Yes.
Back to the top.
Top again, working our way down to the screen. The screen's nice and clear, it's lovely and clean on both sides. There's no chips or damage or anything that's likely to impair the driver's view. And we'll have a quick look at the wiper blades.
I guess you can't check they're actually working until you get inside.
What we'll do, we're just having a quick look at the condition and the presence of them at the moment and make sure they're secure. We'll check the wipers and washers a bit later on when we get in the driver's seat.
OK.
OK. Moving down the vehicle again, there's an access panel at the front here. We make sure it's secure. Nothing loose or likely to come off. The number plate's in place, it's secure. And again, along this low front edge here, here's our marker light, yeah?
Yeah.
OK. What are we looking at on here?
Nothing's going to impede the driver's view.
Yes.
Clean, no chips.
Great. No stone damage or anything like that the driver might feel he needs to report. Coming down to here, we've already given this a bit of a wobble. Right, we know that's secure, the blade condition's good, and we'll check the operation of those from the seat later on.
Well, we checked it looks like it's going to work.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
What about these here?
Check they're all working and that the panel's secure.
No damage. OK, they're all working. The side light's lit and the indicator lamp's working. And down here we've got the extra fog lamps. OK. On the security of the panel. Run our fingers along the corner. No sign of any collision damage. That's looking good. OK.
Good.
We'll just move around this corner here. Same routine again.
Mirror.
Right. Top. No signs of any collision damage. Important equipment for the driver. He's got two mirrors on this side. There again, we're checking the reflective surfaces, the security and the useful operation of them. Side cab windows for obstructions. No signs of damage. Come down to this side panel here, we've got a side repeater indicator, and this is an opening flap. We need to make sure these are secured down. You can imagine the kind of dangers they would present if they were able to open of their own accord. So we give that a tug.
Good.
Okay. Top, middle, bottom again.
Same procedure all the way around.
All the way around, yeah. Side windows, any obvious signs of any trim hanging off, anything the driver might want to report. Then we get down to this important area here, the wheels.
Right.
OK, tyre condition's very important. Now remember, it may be very early doors when the driver comes to take his vehicle out, so you may find it useful to have a small pocket torch as such like for him to have a quick look inside the wheel arch, make sure there's nothing in there likely to foul the wheel. It also gives him a chance to look at the tyre tread condition. And the tyre condition itself, he's looking for any cuts and bulges around the outside of the tyre. We're going to take some time to have a look at the wheel fixings to make sure there's no obvious signs of movement there. And this vehicle's been fitted with little indicator pointers on each wheel nut. And they should be aligned up so the driver can check to see if there's been any signs of movement there. If there was anything there to worry the driver, he would seek further advice or one of the engineers to have a look at the vehicle. Yeah, but provided they're more or less lined up like so, that's an indication that the wheel nuts are tight.
Lovely.
OK, and finally, before we leave the wheel arch, just check the condition and security of the mud flap. Right, it's the same process all the way down this side of the vehicle now, making sure any side flaps are secure. With those for luggage and the like, we must ensure that the flaps are able to stay up on their own and that they also close securely again. OK.
There we go.
Visually inspect the side. OK, it's important to remember also that depending on where the exhaust is mounted on the particular vehicles you're looking at, if the driver can see the exhaust, you should make sure that it's in good condition and if there's any excessive smoke coming from it while the engine's running. OK, come to the rear wheel arch. Remember that at the back door there may be two tyres here. The driver would benefit from a small light maybe so they can have a look and inspect that. There again you see we've got the mud flap presence and security. OK. Fuel filler flap. One of the fuel tanks, we're checking that the cap's OK, there's no obvious signs of any leakage. don't forget to check the seal if you're filling the vehicle up. Moving right to the back now, we have the rear emergency door, which the driver will check to make sure it's unlocked ready for service.
Very important, that one.
And that it's operation. OK, let's move around the back of the vehicle now. Well, we just had a look at that emergency door there, but what we need to understand is that some coaches may use the rear window as part of the emergency exit system. And on double-deck vehicles, there'll be a door right on the top deck anyway, which we can only check from the inside.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say, it'd be pretty tricky from down here, wouldn't
Yeah. Right, OK, so what routine are we using?
Top, middle, bottom.
OK, the lights at the top, happy with those?
Yeah, they look pretty good to me.
OK, what about this one?
The only thing that would be a bit tricky is the brake lights, of course.
Oh, that's true, of course. We could have an assistance. However, the drivers may adopt different ways of checking the brake lights, such as a reflection in the vehicle behind if the vehicles are parked in line, or the operator may have a set of strategically placed mirrors so that drivers on the way out to the out gate can use, by looking in their mirrors, they can see their own lights reflecting.
Okay, good to
Some
know.
operators are very inventive about how they adopt systems for checking brake lights and things like that. Moving across the back of the vehicle then, we're going to check the security of the rear door. Now the driver might want to look in there if he's going out on a job where he's going to pick up passengers' luggage. He might want to check the accessibility and the condition of the boot area. Rear number plate lights, condition of the rear number plate. Top, middle, bottom again for the lights.
Lights all working nicely.
OK. And we're going to adopt exactly the same routine as we did for that side as we make our way down this side.
This side, same routine, but on a bus, there would probably be more doors, wouldn't there, and even a disabled ramp.
Well, there might be more doors down the side, you're right. So we would just simply incorporate those in our top, middle, bottom check as we make our way down the near side of the vehicle. And disabled ramps is something that you've just mentioned there. You're quite right about that, and it just so happens we have a vehicle here which has the doors and the disabled ramp. So why don't we go and have a look?
Good idea, let's do that.
Yeah. Well, Sophie, here we are at the front near side corner of the bus. See, we're by the entrance door. Same routine again.
Top, middle, bottom.
Right, OK. Can you see anything that might be a problem for passengers? Any sharp edges or anything like that sticking out?
Yeah, oh, looks pretty good to me, I
Yeah,
have to
looks
say.
quite nice. So we'll just try the emergency opening button here.
Seems to be in good order.
Yeah, works fine.
And this will be the ramp we were talking about.
It is, yeah. And the driver will check this to make sure it works OK. A manually operated type, as you can see. Very straightforward, easy to use, self-explanatory. We're going to examine the anti-slip surface, the high visibility edges. Some vehicles may be fitted with kneeling suspension devices on board.
Right.
Now, that's the sort of check that the driver might do once he's in the driving seat. So we just pop this back in its recess. There we go, nice and flush.
Great.
Shall we step aboard? Yeah,
Great.
ladies first.
Thank you. Great, so the front, probably the best place to start, but can we just check the checks that we carry out here on the bus, are they the same that we would do on a coach?
Yep, and exactly the same for double-deckers and bendy buses as well. And certainly with regard to the disabled access equipment on here, some coaches may well be fitted with specialised disabled access equipment.
We've checked the emergency door from the outside. It's just as important, if not more so, I guess, that it opens from here as well. So
Sure,
should
yeah.
we start with that?
Would you like to try it?
Sure. Good, good.
That works.
And the other thing, that's a fire extinguisher down there. Equally important.
It is, yeah. You need to make sure it's present and correct, and that it's fully charged.
Great, and if first aid kit is carried, obviously they'd need to have a quick check that that was present as well.
Yeah, where appropriate, if a first aid kit was necessary, the driver would need to be aware of it.
Shall we move through to the saloon then?
Yes, let's do.
Just tell us what you're going to be looking for primarily in here.
Well, general cleanliness, security of all the bits and pieces inside, anything that's likely to cause a discomfort to any of the travelling passengers. We'll also be looking out for fumes and any leaks that may occur. We're looking at the condition of the gangway floor covering to make sure there's no trip hazards and things like that.
So it's all pretty good in here, but you can imagine if it was an older vehicle, perhaps this is the kind of area that might cause a problem.
Well, that's true, yeah. Any seams and such likes, they may start to lift with age, and of course the driver would be looking out for those sort of trip hazards that might present a problem.
OK, and windows?
Yes, windows. On this type here, we've got these pull-out versions. But remember, on coaches, they don't generally have opening windows, so the driver would be aware that he'd need to check the forced air ventilation, and he'd probably need the engine running for that to check that system. And he'd be checking the air coming out through the air vents in the luggage racks. This is also a good time to check the racks themselves and the lights.
OK, and seatbelts probably more relevant on a coach than on a bus.
Well, if the vehicle is fitted with seat belts, we'll need to check that they're there, they're working, and there's no damage.
OK, and anything else? Maybe the bells, the buzzers?
Sure, yeah, the driver would walk up the bus, he'd check the bells. The disabled area will have its own bell push button, and it may make a different sound in the cab to alert the driver, and it will usually bring on a warning light on the dashboard as well to tell him that any disabled people want to leave the vehicle. Well, before we make our way down the bus, we're going to have a quick look at these tip-down seats, OK? Make sure that the covering's OK and that they retract up out of the way for give people disabled access in this area. And there may be some fitted on the other side of the vehicle as well.
So basically, just have a nice walk through and think about the passengers and
Yes.
check that there's nothing that would be hazardous to them.
That's about it. Yeah, let's do that.
OK.
Check any bell pushers that there might be on the poles. Checking for security of the upright stanchions and the seat backs. Looking at the condition of the fabrics and the seat coverings. No sharp edges sticking out. And don't forget, some vehicles may even be fitted with luggage racks. I know certainly coaches will, but some city buses may be fitted with luggage racks. We'll be checking those for security and also for any sharp edges. OK, most important.
Righto.
We've got some step edges here, look.
Check that's all there.
Check that's OK, yeah, nothing's hanging off, nothing, no trip hazards. The high visibility edging is in place, OK? Emergency door. It must be closed properly and securely in the closed position, and we must be able to operate it smoothly and easily like that. Now remember, when this door is operated, there's usually an alarm system or some sort of warning device will alert the driver in the cab that the door's not properly closed or it's been tampered with. Now that might be a buzzer or a warning light or something like that.
And is that the same in a coach?
Well, a coach will have a warning device in the cab, and that could be a buzzer or just a warning light.
OK.
OK. Now moving back towards the back of the vehicle again, we're checking the seat cushions, the backs are upright. Any bell pushes on any hand poles. It's also important to remember that we check for the presence of any brake glass hammers that might be required.
Another emergency exit here, and this one's quite
That's right.
interesting because this is very similar to one you would find on a double-decker, isn't it?
That's right. It's a full-width window-type door arrangement. Like this one here is a pane of glass which has been modified to work as a door. There again, this will be connected to the alarm device in the cab to alert the driver if there's any tampering or if it's not closed properly. And that'll need to be smooth in operation and again secure closely like that.
So that looks pretty good.
Closed secure like that. Yeah.
So we're happy with everything at the back of the bus.
Yes.
Time then to make our way back down to the front because we haven't checked the driver's area yet, have
No,
we?
you're right. So let's go and have a look at that.
OK.
Right, Sophie, here we are in the cab area. Just undo my coat.
Slam you in.
Thank you very much.
So the first thing you do is sit down, so I
Yes.
guess the first thing you should check is the seat.
You're quite right, yeah. Make sure that the seat is quite secure in its mountings and that it's also adjustable because remember the drivers all different sizes and whatnot, they want to get themselves into a comfortable driving position. And it's also worth remembering here as well that if the driver's seat is fitted with a seatbelt, then it should be worn.
OK, now outside we did top, middle, bottom.
Yes.
Same procedure from here or different?
Well, we can use that, yeah, but we'll work across the cab area at the same time.
OK.
But before we go any further, remember I said about the interior lights only coming on because they have a power-saving system on board. If you want all the lights to light up, then you may need the engine running. And in fact, we'll need the engine running for some other tests and checks in the cab area anyway.
Great.
So if you bear with me, I'll just start
Sure.
the motor up. As you can see, the vehicle goes through some systems checks. Now look out for the ABS warning light and make sure that it goes out. So we'll just try the interior lights now. All
Yep.
present and correct?
Yep, seem to be.
Lovely. OK, so let's go back to our screen checks then. You had said before top, middle and bottom? OK, so we start on the outside. At the top, we can see our rear view mirror. Now, remember, we checked outside that it was secure in its mounting and the reflective surface was good. Well, now I'm sat in the driving seat. I'm interested in the view it's going to give me to the rear. So I want to make sure it's correctly adjusted and positioned so that I get a good view along the side of the bus to the back.
OK.
Moving across the screen here, I'm looking out for any posters, stickers, flags, emblems, anything that might be stuck in the way, or even severe screen damage that might obscure my view to the near side. And I'm also looking at the interior rear view mirror again for its position and adjustment to make sure I get a clear view of the saloon. Wipers and washers, you remember outside we looked at the condition of the blades?
Yeah,
and
they
the
look pretty
mounting.
good from out there.
They did indeed. So now we're going to test them. We'll spray some fluid onto the screen and see how the wipers clear it away. Well, they're certainly big enough to do the job, aren't they?
Yeah, they seem to be working pretty well as well.
Very well indeed, yeah.
Good.
Okay. Oh, and by the way, don't forget to check the operation of the demisters. You want to hear the horn?
Let's hear it.
Right, you ready for this? And that is a good horn.
It's definitely a working horn as well.
Okay, so moving across to the driver's screen area then, we need to take note of the sun visor. Now the sun visor should be easily adjustable and it should stay where the driver puts it, obviously. Over this side then, still working at the top of the screen, we've got this driver's side rear view mirror. Same rules apply as to the near side one. It's got to be adjustable, it's got to be secure, and it's got to give me a good view to the rear.
Now, when we were looking at the ramp a bit earlier, you talked about the kneeling. Is that something you check from there now?
It is, yeah. The driver would check the controls from here to make sure that the kneeling operation worked all right. And while we're here, we'll check the operation of the doors. So we just open the door. And close it. No problems there.
Great. Most of the stuff we said, you do the same checks in a coach, but in
Yes.
a coach you'd have a tachograph, wouldn't you?
Well, that's true, yeah. Well, the coach driver would be specifically trained to use a tachograph, and as part of his in-cab area checks, he would check that there was no abnormalities or malfunctions with the instrument and that it was working okay. And while he's there also, he would make sure that all the instruments that should light up at night would light up, and the same would apply to this vehicle as any other vehicle.
So you just check through your panel there and that all the switches were in working order and lit up?
That's right, yeah. You probably find a lot more switches on a coach because there's a lot more functions on there, but the driver would work through the systems checks to make sure that everything that should work would be working.
And of course your handbrake over there as well.
Oh yes, most important. It's got to be secure, there's got to be no air leaks from it, and it's got to remain locked in the on position. Okay, quite important. Moving down into the steering controls, then we can look at the surface of the steering wheel. It's secure, there's no sharp edges, nothing to catch the driver's hands or cause him any injuries, but it operates smoothly, and it may even be adjustable to give the driver that better range of finding himself a comfortable position in the seat. Okay, moving further down into the cab foot control area, it's important that the cab floor area is uncluttered, there's no rubbish, there's nothing down there, no cables or things hanging down that are likely to impede the driver's foot movement, and also that the brake pedal has a proper anti-slip surface on it,
Right, yeah,
okay, such as this one's got here. Now we've had the engine running for a few moments, the air's built up fully. What we would normally do, we would open the window like so, and we'd press our brake down fully and listen for any leaks. At the same time, we could watch the air pressure gauges to see if any of them starts to fall quickly, which could be an indication that there might be a leak at the back that we can't hear from here. Gauges aren't moving. Can you hear any hissing?
No, certainly not, no.
Well, that sounds pretty good. There we are. So that's a good one.
So it all seems to be in working order here. What if that weren't the case? What would you do as a driver? Would you be recording faults somewhere?
Yes, there would be. All operators would have a system in place as part of the requirements for operator licensing. That drivers should be able to report defects to a responsible person, and those defects should be recorded in writing. Now, this particular company has a driver defect card which is issued to the vehicle when it first goes out on duty. And the first driver will carry out these function checks. As you can see, he's ticked off these various boxes for the bits and pieces that need to be checked. Any consecutive drivers would put their names in here had they found a defect further on in the day in the vehicle's duty cycle. At the end of the day, this card or defect sheet would be handed in, and appropriate action would be taken by the company to make sure that the defects was rectified, and any rectification work would be recorded in an auditable system. And any such defects and records such as these, it's a requirement that they be kept for 15 months.
Okay, and what if there were no defects? Would you record that fact itself or not?
Well, some companies require that from their drivers to sign what they call a nil defect report to clarify the fact that they've conducted a check and they found no defects there at all.
Okay, so even as a driver, you've completed your daily walk-around
Yes.
check. When you're out and about on the road, you're always going to be aware, aren't you?
Well,
You're always looking out for faults that may be developing.
Well, that's right, yeah. I mean, the driver will know how the vehicle handles under normal conditions. If he notices something that is not natural with the way the vehicle's behaving, or maybe notices the brake performance or the steering controls aren't quite as good as they were, he would take the appropriate steps either to seek advice from the engineering department But if it was just a simple defect, he would note it on his card, the vehicle could stay in service and it would be dealt with by the engineering department overnight.
And Jake, I noticed that the height of the vehicle is detailed just up there, and that must be pretty important to be aware of.
Oh, absolutely right, yeah, the driver does need to know the height of the vehicle he's driving on the day.
Especially if he's in a double-decker, I suppose.
Ah, quite right, yeah, especially if there's any low bridges about, sure.
I imagine there will be a book with all this detailed in it, is there?
You imagine quite right, and would you believe, I just happen to have one here with me in the
here
cab.
it is.
The Guide to Maintaining Roadworthiness. Well, we're not going to sit here and talk about it. Let's go and find one of the posh sheets down the back and we'll go through
Lovely,
it.
bit more comfortable.
Have a seat, Sophie.
Thank you very much.
There we go.
Oh, I've got two.
Oh, you got two, very good. Right, well, there we are.
Looks like you've got a lot of information in that.
There's a whole load of stuff in here that will benefit operators and drivers alike. And also to help drivers and operators with their walk-around check regime, you can see in the back of this we've got a fold-out section which has all the details of the bits and pieces that we recommend you check as part of your daily walk-around check procedure.
Lovely. And if I don't have one of these and I want to get hold of one, how would I do that?
Well, you can use the contacts and information section with this DVD, but this is available as a free download from our VOSA website.
Brilliant. Jake, thank you so much for a very comprehensive guide to a daily walk-around check. We have gone through it in some detail, haven't we? It's important to remember that it doesn't take very long.
No.
And a really good way to avoid fixed penalty notices, potential immobilisation and even getting points on your licence, isn't it?
Well, that's true, yeah, but remember, all we want to do is travel safely.